Yes, sir.
I'm going to change the topic on you. Is there anything that the county can do to control the helicopter or the seaplane?
Excellent question. Helicopter noise is a major problem. It's something that the supervisor and I, well, it has to be several years ago, sat right here in this room and we listened to this. And I know the supervisor in the town considered that. Problem is, helicopters per se come under the jurisdiction of the FAA. I put forward a law that would regulate helicopters requiring a minimum altitude of 1,500 feet. Someone said, first of all, that's in the federal government's thing. You can't do that. And the best witness for me actually came from the FAA. Because she said, she came to the legislature, she testified, you can't do that. You're preempted by the federal government. That's the role of the FAA. So I asked a couple questions, and after that it passed. I said, oh really? What regulations do you have? Do you require pilots to file some type of flight plan? No. Do you require some degree of altitude height? No. Is there any minimum? Well, we have no minimum, but we try to recommend they stay above 300 feet. Okay. It went on like this, and then I said, so what you're telling me is that, we're preempted by you because you really regulate them, but you really don't. And after that, the legislature passed that. Now, I knew that the county doesn't have much of a role, and the purpose was to pressure the federal government to do something. Now, someone I know has a lot of local interest, and that person is Senator Schumer. He picked up on this. And last June 2010, I got in my car and drove up west to a place called San Remo, which is right by Kings Park, between Smithtown and Kings Park. And there, Nessequag River, he had a press conference that said, and this was, I think, the end of May, beginning of June of 2010, we're going to have a rule out. It's coming out July 1st. Please comment on it. So I backed them because I said, that's great. And the rule was going to be 3,000 feet, fly only over water, a whole host of other things. Well, July 1st came and no rule came. So then we pressured Senator Schumer and Congressman Bishop again. And the bottom line is, they have now put a rule in the FAA reauthorization bill. Unfortunately, the FAA reauthorization bill has not been adopted, and the FAA has no money. But we are waiting for the federal government to step up to the plate to do the right thing. Even if they establish, and by the way, people say, well, how can they tell how high they're flying? Every helicopter has a transponder on it. And you can track them on a laptop, believe it or not. And you can check which helicopter matches with which number, and you can see their altitude on this. So you can review all of this. My problem with all of this regulation is the reason we're facing these regulations is because someone devised a plan that everyone would fly north to reach the South Fork, which to me makes no sense. They should be flying the ocean route. Now, I was given two potential reasons. One doesn't hold as much water. The first reason it doesn't hold a lot of water, well, there's Kennedy Airport around there. Yes, that's true, but there are altitude paths that they can fly through, because I know helicopter pilots have told me, we just have to stay within this altitude and this flight path. So that has some truth, but not enough to invalidate it. And the second, well, there's the third too. The second was, it actually takes them about 10 minutes longer to fly the ocean route, and therefore they have to spend more gas. And the third, there's a lot of people on the South Shore that have some influence, that are friends of some of our federally elected officials, and I don't know if that's a reason, if that plays into it, and I'm not going to speculate on that. But when you think that Gabreski's on the South Fork, the village of Southampton has a small heliport, that's on the South Fork, and East Hampton Airport's on the South Fork, and they're all flying along the North Shore, not only here, but in Nassau County, because I have people as far west as Nassau County complaining to me, and they fly, and then they decide somewhere around Shore-Wading River to cut over to Gabreski, somewhere further east to cut over to Southampton, and somewhere further east, Mattatuck, Cutchogue, etc., to cut over, go up the bay, east on the bay, cut over Shelter Island, and come around North Haven, who I get a lot of complaints from, to get to East Hampton Airport. That's outrageous. The thing that we have to do is put more pressure on our congressman, who I'm sure will be responsive, and our two United States senators, Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand. This is a federal issue. For the county to step in was kind of like me firing a flare in the night to get their attention. But you know what? It was better than sitting around and saying, I can't do anything. So we, and I would collectively say to you, because I do it every couple of weeks, I make calls to Schumer's office, to Congressman Bishop's office, and less so to to Senator Gillibrand, because Schumer and Bishop are the ones most deeply involved in this issue, about getting this rule in place. Apparently, when the FAA bill will be reauthorized, they'll establish a 3,000 flight ceiling that people have to fly at, other than landing or takeoff, and they have to fly over water for most of the trip. Whether this will resolve the problem or not, I don't know. But obviously, you know what? If they have all of these routes, how about you fly out the north route and fly back the south route? You cut your helicopter traffic in half. How about a little fairness? That's what I would suggest, but I don't see that forthcoming. The best we could get was altitude restrictions and flying over water for most of the trip, which, by the way, the Helicopter Pilots Association adamantly opposed, which is interesting. Yes?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a tremendous problem, these helicopters. When I was a young, struggling guy and could only afford Rosedale, I lived under Kennedy Airport. I now feel like I'm at Kennedy Airport with corn.
Right.
You're a politician. You react to pressure. You mentioned writing or contacting Bishop, for instance. Contacting Bishop, for instance, is getting back an auto response to almost anything you contact him about.
Well, he's going to be running for office next year.
Okay. Can you give a suggestion on how to get through with some pressure? What are more effective pressure? Just
Call his district office. Call his district office. John Schneider is his chief of staff. Speak with John Schneider. Ask for John Schneider. That's his chief of staff. And Schumer's chief of staff is Jerry Petralia.
Regional rep, Jerry Petralia.
Regional rep on Long Island is Jerry Petralia. We deal with him. Call Schumer's regional office. I believe it's in Melville on Long Island. I'd call both of them. I think if they got enough telephone calls, they'd start doing something, because the first reason he did something last year is because my bill passed. Not that the county can enforce this, but it was like firing off a flare. There's a problem.